Glad to have you back. It's the Business Daily right here on Trust Television. Now we look at another interesting topic, talking about agriculture. Of course, the issue of high input, falling farm gate prices for produce, and other factors that is affecting farmers' productivity. That is what we'll be looking at this year. Of course, there is a report that farmers may scale back in 2026 rather, because of heavy yields of 2025 and low unit income trend that follow in the past year. Climate change, insecurity, reduced prices are also said to have taken place in 2025. Tariffs were also lifted, and of course, importation of foodstuff were encouraged to bring in down prices. All of this put together, more like aggregating all of this together, is going to affect the kind of food production that we're going to get in 2026. And what is the implication of this on food security in Nigeria? Let's put some context into this. I'm being joined in the studio by Engineer Shehu Bello. He's the former Director of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. He's also the National Publicity Secretary of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Good morning, Engineer Bello.
Good morning, Mr. Yusuf. Thank you very much.
Yes, glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's talk about issues around agriculture. You heard that intro there. I mean, farmers scaling down on production, apparently because of some reason that I really talk about, the climate change, the low prices, and of course, quite a couple of issues. The tariff, that was reduced to allow importation. What do you think is going to be the implication of this?
The implication is already with us. The low price of food could not come in a vacuum. Definitely, it would have come as a result of a deliberate policy of government to bring down the cost of food, which is fine. The high cost of food serves no one, including the farmers and the consumers. And we in All Farmers Association of Nigeria have always believed that appropriate pricing is what can give us sustainable food as far as the country is concerned. Be that as it may be, we expect that as a result of government policy of relaxing importation of importation of food into the country through zero tariff, although we are told that this will be for a immediate period of time. But if over a period of time, from 2005 dovetailing into 2006, that is 2025 harvest, 2024 harvest, we're having this problem. Now we have 2025 harvest with the same problem. We expect the government to now also use another policy to correct the unintended consequences of allowing limited importation of food. What am I saying? The government can as well say, okay, if the price, farm gate price of food is falling below the cost of production, they can offer a sort of what we call a buyer of last resort price, buyback price. That, okay, for our farmer not to incur losses, we are ready to take this food off the farmers.
Government serving as off-takers.
Off-taker. It could be public, private. It could be solely government. But somebody has to back that price. That, okay, if you can find, this is the floor price, which will feel farmer will not incur losses as a result of this price. If you have anybody who can buy at this price, sell it to him. Otherwise, the government is giving you an avenue to sell your produce at that price. It doesn't have to be only the federal government. It could be federal government, state government, because these farmers belong to states. The federal government doesn't have farmers that are exclusive federal farmers. They are Nigerian farmers who came from states. So it could be both state and local government, both state and state government and private individuals that can pick this produce off these farmers so that they can remain on the farm and their livelihood is not jeopardized. In any case, Government also have a lot of development financing that they do for these farmers. If farmers sell below the cost of production, how do they pay back the loan?
The loans.
You cannot accuse the farmer of defaulting when he's selling at a loss. So in order to make sure that funds are recovered from these farmers, they must have good farm gate prices for their produce.
Indeed, having good farm gate prices for their produce, very, very important. But we understand that some of them are beginning to leave the usual crop farming and embracing maybe cash crop like cocoa, coffee, and the rest because of apparently the laws that they incur. I recall a farmer who said he spent over 800,000 naira in land preparation, cultivation, and every other thing. Yeah. But what he recovered at the end of the day was not up to that money. What would you say to a farmer like that who decided to say, okay, I can no longer engage in regular crop farming. Let me go to where I can actually farm and make money?
Well, farming is actually a business, and nobody goes into a business to lose money. If farmers feel they cannot make money from grain production, definitely they will diversify into other crops. Just when I was coming to the studio, I spoke to some of our members, and they told me clearly that this year we will go into soybeans production because soybean doesn't need we don't need to worry ourselves about fertilizers, agrochemicals to do soybeans, and it commands a fair price in the market. But nobody eats soybeans. We still need our rice, our maize, our cassava, and stuff like that. So we are telling them that we are as their representative. We are speaking to the government, and even the Minister of Finance recently said that government is going to do something about the collapse of the farm gate price to try and shore up the price of local price of grains in such a way that it will not lead to spike in food inflation, but at the same time it will be a cushion for farmers to be able to sell the stock they are presently holding. Because except something is done for farmers to release, to sell what they have, I do not see how they will go back to the farm during the wet season that will come in from June. Presently, anybody can tell you, as of now, the dry season farming that is supposed to be on now is almost next to zero, because most of the land that are being cultivated, nobody can go into them, because you saw the one you produce during the rainy season, they have not been sold. So how do you go back to do anything in the dry season? It is when you are able to sell what you produce during the rainy season, that's when you go back to do something in the dry season. So the dry season, as it is now, the farmer are not being encouraged to do the dry season. And if nothing is done during the dry season, then what about the rainy season? Well, people will say, well, we will do something. Well, whatever you do, as long as these farmers are not able to sell whatever they produce, it will look as if they are not being encouraged to remain on the farm.
And some are also saying that it's like some of our farmers are not patriotic. That if they are patriotic, they will be glad that prices are going down. And on the other side, again, like you mentioned, farming is a business. Agric is a business. They need to farm and, of course, make money. A situation whereby after spending their money for farming, and of course, government went ahead and opened borders to allow, food importation and, of course, to crash prices. What do you think? What kind of what are we setting? I mean, what kind of messages the government sending to farmers who are interested in engaging in continued farming at this point? Those
insisting on buying cheap food, they will use the word cheap food. Those are elitist arguments. Those are people who don't know what farming is all about. If you know what these farmers go through to produce the food we are eating, you will know that if they are to cost their labor, I don't think we'll be able to afford the price they are selling these things to us. These are people who have to contend with the issue of insecurity. They farm at the risk of their lives. They have to contend with the high cost of input. They have to contend with the high cost of labor. And you are still saying that they have to sell this produce at a giveaway price. I think the fairest thing that can be done to them is that for farmer to know at initial when he's going to the farm, this is going to be the guaranteed minimum price. If you cannot sell below this price, that will encourage him to farm more. But for us to just say we want cheap food, cheap food at what cost and at whose expense? For example, now,
are you advocating for food subsidy?
I will not say full subsidy in that way. I will ask for support, because subsidy has a way of being managed in this country in such a way that it will give you a negative outcome. But support, is good. What actually farmers are asking for is market access. That's what a farmer is looking for. When he produces, he's able to sell, and he sells at where he can earn some minimum profit for him to be able to send his child to school, to pay for his health care, to also be able to carry out some of his livelihood activities. That's all he's asking for. He's not asking for, after all, most of this high cost of food is not happening at the farm gate prices, farm gate price. It happens when the merchants have taken off the farmers. The government has done well, fine. That, okay, we don't want people to hoard food. That's excellent, that is fine. But at the same time, you have to safeguard the farm gate price. At the farm gate price, you have to make sure that the farmer sells at a good price. That's just it should be a price that is fair for the consumer and is good for the farmer. That's what all Farmer Association of Nigeria is telling its members, and that is what we advocate for our members. And our collaboration with the government, all our meetings, this is what we tell them, that this is what we stand for.
Indeed, having a farm gate is indeed very, very important for farmers, because when you produce, you need where to take your produce to. Well, let's look at, are you satisfied with government efforts? I mean, in managing agriculture. You have worked in the Ministry of Agriculture for so long, you rose to the position of a director. It means you know quite a whole lot. Talk to us about how that ministry operates. Do you think farmers are actually benefiting from policies and programs being implemented in that ministry well enough?
I think if you are talking about Federal Ministry of Agric alone, yes, that is a sector for Federal Ministry, but the way it is now, you find as far as agriculture is concerned, you now have livestock, you have water resources, because you cannot have agriculture without water. Now you have issue of climate change, you cannot have, which you have to contend with in production. So you have environment on one side. So taking in total, I think the government policy is fine, it's okay, as far as the sector is concerned. But what has been lacking is the synergy between the federal and the state as far as agricultural production is concerned. If we can have the synergy between the two, that is, state complementing the effort of the federal government, I think all the policies will be properly implemented at the state level. And for example, the issue of extension, you cannot have agriculture without extension, because that's where technology is, that's why you innovate, that is why new technologies are delivered to the farmer. What is the state of extension services at the local government level? Those are things that have to be, taken into context, and local government are under the state government. So as far as agriculture is, and luckily even in the constitution, is on concurrent list. So it's a shared responsibility between the federal and the state government, and they can only complement themselves. So all tiers of government are involved in agricultural production. But I think what is needed is that the tier of government have to harmonize their policies and make sure that they is implemented in a way that it delivers, it advances Nigerian agricultural productivity. For example, we as a farmer group, we try to advise our farmer through training, advocacy, collaboration with government, that whatever the government is trying to do, we tell our farmers and we tell them this how we think this should be done. Because without the farmers group, government cannot really we don't expect government to speak to each and every farmer. I think it's better they speak to them through their association. So I think with the association on one side and the government on the other side, I think we can always get the agricultural sector properly
In terms
aligned.
of collaboration, how well is the government and farmers association collaborating? We have a couple of them. You have rice farmers, you have maize farmers, we have the oil farmers, and so many other farmers. How well is government collaborating? A lot of people say the political farmers have hijacked some of the initiative from the government.
No, I think the government knows who are the genuine farmers anytime they want to do a government program. They know who are the leaders of the farmers. These rice farmers and maize farmers you mentioned, those are the sectoral associations. And the All Farmers Association is the umbrella association of all the farmers. All these farmers associations come under the umbrella of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. And in fairness to the government, they hardly carry out any program without involving the farmers association. And what we have always been telling the members is that whatever assistance support government gives them, they should not think as if it's just their own share of the cake. They have to carry out what is intended with that program. They have to carry out their own aspect of the program and make sure that the good intention of the program is followed through.
Talking about following through the good intention of the program, now we are in 2026 already. We saw what happened in 2025, government declaring state of emergency on food security and a whole lot of that. A lot of initiative by the government talking about going into farm mechanization, tractors were brought in, and a couple of that. So talk to us about how effective are all of these initiatives. Declaration of state of emergency, farm mechanization, how well are we mechanized so far?
No, I think for the declaration of state of emergency, at least we could all see that we don't have problem with availability of food now. Food is available. The only problem is the price. In fact, some people are saying that for the first time in December, we have tomato is all over the place. So we can say those are as a result of government policies. But what we as farmer group are expecting, sustainability of this initiative. You cannot be having one-off initiative, surplus and bust. You cannot develop. Well, if you have surplus, then we have to sustain it. And how do you sustain your surplus? You make sure that you are able to store. Storage doesn't mean hoarding. People used to confuse storage with hoarding. You cannot, you store when you have surplus and release when you have, when you release when you at off season. You release it at off season, what you have stored during the harvest season. That's what storage is all about. Because you cannot be having something is costing 10,000 naira. During surplus, you buy it at 3,000 naira. At off season, you buy the same thing at 20,000 naira. You have really not gained. But because if you have stored, the price will have been consumed. You will have a stable price. You will have just been releasing from your storage at off season and to stabilize until the next harvest. But you find that most things are always available during harvest season, and once it's off season, will go into the price will suddenly become and it becomes scarce. So I don't think it's the best way of developing a sector. So what I'm saying in effect is that we should always store our excess during the harvest period and release when there is scarcity. That doesn't translate
talking about storage, government has a storage facility. We saw happen when there was an issue around I think last year or a year before, where Nigerians invade storage facilities, government storage facilities, break them, and of course take away some of the food items. How effective are they? Some are saying that in most cases some of these stored food ended up even getting expired.
No, at least with some years in the ministry, I think I can say something on the storage facility of government. The way the storage facilities is structured is that we have 3 levels of storage as far as the food is concerned. We have the on-farm storage, we have the buffer storage, we have the strategic reserve. The strategic reserve is for the federal government. Those are the ones, the big silos you see all over the place. I must say that they have been effective. If you notice, during the COVID from 2019 to 2020, we never had problem of, nobody was talking about problem of food because we have food in the reserve, and that was what we used during the COVID. We did not import food during COVID. So it was what they had in reserve that we used during the COVID. And it's expected that the state government also will have the buffer stock, which will store whatever is produced within their state. That's I'm speaking now. The excess under normal circumstances, the state government should have been buying from the farmers to store in their as a buffer stock, while the federal government continue with the strategic reserve, and the farmers do their own on-farm storage. Those are the three layers of storage we have. As far as the government storage policy is fine. It's only that the players will have to play their own part, and the federal government realizing that, okay, if the buffer stock is not too widely done, why don't I bring in the private people to manage that aspect of it? And I think what we have now, we have concessionaires managing those storage structures now.
And you think they're effective?
They are effective.
Or it can be better?
They can. I think they are effective.
All right, talking about being effective, let's look at extension services. Since you're from the Ministry of Agriculture, in those days we have all these extension workers who go to villages and local communities to supervise how the farmers and all of that. What happened to extension services? What happened to them?
The extension services has evolved over the years. What we have now is e-extension. With the digitalization, with your phone, you can get a lot of extension.
How can you supervise someone in my local community?
That is the one, yes.
A farmer in my village.
Yes, I'm coming. That is the one we can build on. But to have one-on-one extension with, you have extension farm will go and meet a group of farmers. Yes, you continue with that. But for a widespread, I think it's better we consolidate and work on the e-extension. Unfortunately, most of the extension officers are under the state government, and I'm not too sure the states are spending money on essential services. So I think the states will have to move from supporting agriculture to investing in agriculture. There are two different things. What is currently being done in most states, I'm not saying all, in most states is supporting agriculture, while what they need to be doing is to invest in agriculture. But you see, when you investment is long-term, and that's what can really fetch you volume.
Talking about, still on these extension services, you say it's e-extension, that is electronic. Yeah. It is being done now. But if you look at the large percentage of our farmers are in rural communities, some of them in underserved communities, how will you be able to electronically supervise farmers who are not even tech savvy?
There's nobody who cannot use telephone. Whether he goes to school or he doesn't go to school, almost everybody can use telephone. So the e-extension will just be in their own local language. Once in their own local language, they know how to use telephone and do this. Because, for example, now in extension now, you still have to bring issue of climate change. You have to train these farmers. You have to inform them on what they need to do to mitigate the effect of climate change, because it's already here with us. So, for example, the time they are used to applying fertilizer, they will discover it's no longer the same time now. So, but with e-extension, with information on climate change, NIMET is there. If state government can collaborate with NIMET will give them information suitable for their own area, and they'll be able to tell their farmers also place, there will be rain in the next 4 days. So if you want to apply fertilizer, you can apply fertilizer within these 4 days. No, don't plant now. This is not your onset. Your onset will be so time. The onset for FCT is different from onset for Kaduna or for Niger State. All this is climate change. There is the CDAM climate change prediction that will give you all this. These are all information that farmers must have. These are part of the. These are things that are contained in National Agricultural Technology and Information Policy, which is federal government existing policy that was launched in 2022, and I think it will expire in 2027 also. So these are all things that this policy has already emphasized that state government must, do all this for their own farmers. Climate change prediction, e-extension, investment in agriculture. Those are all things that state government needs to do. Federal government also provide its own support.
All right. As we wrap up the conversation now, the issue of I'll also speak on government initiative as well, because the former president Muhammadu Buhari did introduce the Anchor Borrowers program when he was in office, and some banks as well, talking about the likes of NISA, Microfinance Bank, a couple of them were actually there to support farmers. But this government came in and took a different direction. Do you think we should have continued with that policy?
I think the government is still going ahead with some of the policies. For example, the CBN governor just announced the Agricultural Credit Guarantee Fund, which has always been there, but in a more revamped system now. So, and NISA is still there. Not
as active as they were.
No, they are. They are still active because we relate with them. NISA is there. What does NISA do? NISA just guarantee the loans. You are supposed to go to your farmer, to your bank. They will assess you, find the credit worthy, agree with you. Then your bank will now come to NISA. These are my customer. We have assessed him. We are due to give him this loan. Can you provide the guarantee? They will assess it. If it's fine, then they will provide the guarantee. So they are still there. There's agricultural credit guarantee scheme there. The only one that is off the table is the Anchor Borrowers program. The Anchor Borrower program, for whatever reason, I think the public perception of that program has not been too good. But if you have this present government, instead of that, what they are trying to do now is to recapitalize the Bank of Agriculture, so that they can give people, single-digit interest rates for loan, which is almost the same. That's the same thing Anchor program is trying to do. And at the same time, they have there's what we call presidential catalytic funding for seeds under the National Seed Council for seed companies, so that they can increase their capacity and produce quality seed to increase our productivity. So you find out they only rejig the policies to make sure that they are more transparent and they deliver
more effective.
They are more effective. That's what they have done.
All right, we look to see the impact that is going to have on agriculture in 2026. Thank you so much, Engineer Shehu Bello, former Director of Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security and National Publicity Secretary of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, AFAN. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. With that, is a wrap on the show today. We'll be back here again tomorrow. I am Yusuf Akogu.